What was one moment you felt like the boss in the military? I was a sergeant first class leading a supply convoy from Bagram to a remote outpost near the Pakistani border. Routine mission, or so we thought. 3 hours into the journey, our lead vehicle hit an IED. Driver was unconscious, gunner had shrapnel in his leg, and the truck was blocking the only road through a narrow mountain pass. We were sitting ducks in a valley known for Taliban activity. My lieutenant was in the damaged vehicle, knocked out cold from the blast. Radio operator was trying to reach command, but the mountains were blocking our signal. 40 soldiers looking at me for answers I didn't have. First priority was security. Set up a perimeter using the remaining vehicles. Posted guards on the high ground. Sent Specialist Martinez and Private Johnson up the ridgeline with the radio to find a signal and call for medevac. But here's the problem. The damaged truck was carrying critical supplies, medical equipment, ammunition, and water purification tablets for 300 soldiers who'd been without resupply for 2 weeks. We couldn't just abandon it. Tried to push the truck off the road with another vehicle. No luck. Thing was wedged between 2 boulders like it was welded there. Started unloading supplies by hand, but it would take hours. Hours we didn't have. That's when Corporal Davis, our mechanic, suggested something crazy. What if we winched the truck up and over the boulder instead of around it? Use 2 vehicles, double the pulling power, and basically drag it up and over the obstacle. Everyone thought he was nuts. The physics didn't make sense. But Davis had been fixing vehicles for 8 years. If anyone could make it work, it was him. While he rigged the winches, I organized the convoy, redistributed the critical supplies across multiple vehicles, made sure every truck had medical gear and ammunition in case we got separated. Basic load planning, but under pressure it felt like commanding a major operation. Martinez finally got through to command. Medevac was 30 minutes out, but they couldn't land in the narrow pass. We'd have to carry the wounded to a landing zone 2 kilometers away. Made another command decision. Split the convoy. Half would stay with Davis to recover the truck. Half would escort the wounded to the LZ. I'd go with the casualties, but Sergeant Williams would take charge of the recovery operation. Hardest part was leaving Williams and 15 soldiers behind. If the Taliban showed up, they'd be outnumbered and trapped. But the wounded needed immediate evacuation, and someone had to make the call. Carried the lieutenant and the gunner across 2 kilometers of rocky terrain. Found a flat spot big enough for the helicopter. Popped smoke, guided them in, and watched our wounded disappear into the sky. Rushed back to find Davis and Williams had actually done it. Somehow winched that 5-ton truck up and over a boulder that should have been impossible to climb. Convoy was ready to move, but we weren't done. Intelligence came over the radio. Taliban fighters were moving toward our position. Estimated 15 minutes until contact. Pushed the convoy hard through the remaining passes. Made it to the outpost with 10 minutes to spare. Watched through binoculars as insurgents reached the spot where we'd been trapped. They found nothing but tire tracks and empty shell casings. Later learned that those supplies we delivered prevented a medical crisis. 3 soldiers at the outpost had severe infections that would have been fatal without the antibiotics we carried. The ammunition resupplied their defensive positions just before a major attack the following week. Got called into the company commander's office a week later. Expected a lecture about splitting the convoy without authorization. Instead, he handed me a Bronze Star recommendation. Leadership isn't about following perfect procedures, he said. It's about making the right decision when there is no right decision. You kept 40 soldiers alive and completed an impossible mission. The real moment I felt like the boss wasn't getting the medal. It was watching Davis and Williams execute that crazy recovery plan without question. Seeing Martinez climb that ridgeline to get a radio signal. Watching every soldier in that convoy do their job perfectly under the worst possible circumstances. That's when I realized command isn't about giving orders. It's about earning the trust of people who'll follow you into impossible situations. People who'll risk their lives because they believe you'll make the right call, even when you're not sure what that call should be.